So everybody, welcome. This is Career Lab Wednesday. We're here every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. Central Time. We are looking at knowing your worth, knowing the value that you bring, knowing your gifts, and then getting into how to negotiate effectively. So we've got a lot of training and resources on communicating powerfully, and we'll share some of those with you. But I also want to say that any questions that you have, any challenges that you have in your process of you becoming who you can become through your career, through your job, any questions that you have, please share them. We invite everything. There's no question kind of too big for all of us as a team to grapple with, or a question too small that you probably wouldn't realize serves so many people. But there's a few ways that you can join in. Love it when you jump in on Zoom. There's a Zoom link provided on the LinkedIn event that you can jump in here, ask your questions directly. If that's not possible for you, you can ask your questions in the comments section on LinkedIn. So please let us know what questions you have, how we can serve you today. As we're getting started here, I'll share a little bit about a process of negotiation that I've been working on with somebody. So they basically didn't realize how effective they are, how talented they are, how much value they were bringing to an organization, and that was actually even threatening to some of the people in the organization. And so, hey, Dr. Medlock.
Hey, George Donald, good to see you.
You too. And so as they were developing themselves in this position, they kind of came to realize that they weren't going to get what they wanted in that company, that they weren't, basically their values and the company's values weren't really aligned. But they went through the process of having a bunch of difficult conversations with his boss, with some of the partners. And the value of that is that he really got to know his worth at a deeper level. He didn't realize how instrumental he had been in the company's vision, in places that they were going. And he wouldn't have done that if he had just simply left to something that's paying more, which he's done. But in the process, he also had a lot of conversations and negotiated with his previous company about what they could do for him, et cetera, and really got a sense of his gifts and the value that he brought to the company. So there's many, many reasons for having some of these conversations in your during your career journey. So Dr. Medlock, I was just given a little story about somebody who I've been working with and the value that he's created for himself and for the company, by the way, in them thinking through some of the challenging things in the company that just him asking the questions brought up as he was really going for what he wanted. And to the point then where when he separated, it was very clear to the company and much clearer to him about how valuable of an asset he is as an individual in a company. So all of that to say, lots of benefits to negotiating. And again, as we've got more folks joining in, welcome. This is Career Lab Wednesday. We're talking about negotiating today, knowing your worth, but we invite all questions. Any question, there's no question too small or too big for you to share here. So, hey, hello, Dr. Imhotep, good to see you again. Susan, welcome. And I'd like to pass it over to you, Dr. Medlock. I know you've had a lot of experience with people in this. What are their gifts that they're bringing to the table, and how to share about that as they're going into a new company? Anything that you want to add to this before we start taking some questions?
Well, you know, we've talked about this a number of times, and one of the pieces that I've been mentioning, I think is really important, is to think of the answer to the question, what is it that I contribute that is so important that they wouldn't want to lose me? In other words, what is my unique contribution that I can count on to bring to an organization? And how do I communicate that to people, and how do they recognize it in me? I think it's important for everybody to think about that. It came out from one of the career coaches that is well known. And I'm sorry, I'm not recalling his name right now. Actually, I've got it right here. So good they can't afford to. Cal Newport. So good they can't afford to ignore you. You know, and he says, you know, a lot of people want to follow their bliss. Well, that's good, but more importantly is follow what it is that you really are good at, that people really are going to want to pay you to do. And as you develop, because if you're good at something, it means you put energy into it too. You've been practicing it. There's motivation there. And the truth is you build and find your bliss by pursuing excellence in what you do well. So I think it's important for everybody to think about, well, what is it that I bring that's different or unique that I can really make a difference, and be able to talk about that in an interview. So I'm curious to hear, for those of you who are either have had experience with that or who are looking for jobs and are wanting to be better at doing that, please let me know your thoughts about that.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Imhotep, I see you're on camera. Or do you want to respond to Dr. Medlock?
Not really.
Okay.
I've been here all of everything.
Okay.
In another meeting coming in.
Jennifer, I know you and I were talking right before we launched here. Anything you want to jump in with?
Sorry, I couldn't get my mouse over to the unmute.
Got it.
So it's not all about salary negotiation, because, you know, there's a budget they have to stick to. What other things, like, for instance, when you're negotiating for a new position, time off, is there like other benefits besides PTO that you can negotiate, or what is your thought on that?
Well, I think the first question is, from in that a series of things of, have you found the job? Is the job that you want? Are you talking about a job that you've really decided you want and that they want you? Are we talking at that level of the discussion?
Yes. And I gave them my pay range, and they said that's slightly higher than what we can offer, but there's been no other talk on like what they can offer.
Good.
But if they turn around tomorrow and offer me a position, I would accept it even at a lower rate, just because of the ability to grow with the company. And the promotion is on the horizon if I do accept the position. So that, I mean, that's what they told me, you know, during my last interview. So
good. So they're interested. So as I recall, I think Dr. Zwell, Mike Zwell, was on our call last week. He was speaking about that benefits are often difficult to negotiate. That's something that typically they're locked into certain plans that they can't make a lot of latitude in terms of specific choices. So I thought that was helpful to think about. But you can negotiate things like days, you know, how many PTO days do you have? And, you know, I don't know, sometimes.
they do have a hybrid work schedule.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's one of the places where how many days a week can you work from home as opposed to in the office and things like that. So, so I think, you know, if you're at that point where you guys have already decided this is a good fit, now they're talking about, well, what is it you really would like? And so I think for you, it would be, what would make a difference? What for you would be able to say, yeah, I'd really appreciate that. Because I think if you can speak to that with your, you know, with an open heart about it, they're likely to respond. Okay.
I mean, because the communication has been all with the CEO. I obviously talked to the recruiter once, but the CEO has been who I would directly report to at this point. So.
Well, you got the guy who can
Yeah.
for that. So that's a nice opportunity.
And have you really thought through what you want?
Well, there's been no talk on what they actually can offer me. So I'm hoping that discussion is tomorrow. So, I mean, we'll kind of go from there, but I think even like $5,000 a year less than what my bottom line is, I think that's acceptable given the opportunity for growth.
Well, you know, it's interesting though, George Donald asked you, what is it you really want? And you said, well, I'll wait and see what they can offer. But I'm curious to know, what would make a difference? What would you really want?
at the, I mean, the opportunity for growth, because I mean, I'm an IO, so the opportunity for growth is, and the ability to learn and become a better, more a part of the organization is what I want. And I see that as a possibility with this organization. I see them like, no matter what I do, I'm going to leave it in a better position than where I started. So even if I'm only there a year, like I'm going to hit the ground. Like I already shared my plan with the CEO of what I wanted to do, like first days. So hopefully they're willing to, or accepting of, my suggestions.
Mhm.
I guess that'll come tomorrow where I'm like, okay, this is what it'll take to get me in the door. So.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're something you're ready to do and you feel pretty good about it. So it sounds like you're already in the door.
Yeah.
Hopefully. That one would hurt if they ended up not offering, but.
Well, it's an interesting thing. I mean, if there's something that really would make a difference to you that you'd really appreciate, this is a good time to ask for that. But I'm not clear exactly what that would be for you. What do you think would be something you'd really appreciate?
They already offer like a bonus for like a gas bonus, like a bonus for.
Mhm.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah, they already offer that. They already offer like a bonus structure. Other than that, they already do like a temporary 10% increase on salary because of inflation. So all of those things are already like, you can't negotiate more than that because
Yeah, that's
they
good.
already offer those.
Well, and it can totally be other things. People to get access to golf clubs, access to networking groups, access to additional training. I really value coaching myself. So
Mhm.
that's part of, the organization we work with pays for us to do continued coaching programs with other organizations. And so looking at, and it sounds like development is something that's really important to you, kind of you being able to see what you create blossom, as well as you learning and growing in the process. So there might be some stuff for you to think about there, where it's a win-win for both of you.
Okay.
Yeah,
So like one of their things they prefer, a certification, an HR certification, which I currently do not have. So I mean that would be something that I could negotiate. Sorry, thinking out loud, but
No, beautiful. This is great.
Yeah. Good. Well, thank you. It sounds like you're in a good place and nice opportunity. So congratulations.
hopefully.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Let us know how it goes. Well, cool.
Thank you.
So thank you, Jennifer. This is Career Lab Wednesday. If you are on LinkedIn Live and you're unable to join in, totally get it. But if you're on there and you want to jump in, there's the link to this Zoom meeting where you can join in, ask questions. If you're not able to join in, type your questions into the comment section. In fact, we've got some coming in here. So from Michelle Casto, when putting a proposal forth, say for a 1-year training, what is the best way to put the price in the proposal and how negotiable it is once you name that price in writing? Okay. So this is I think a familiar question here. Dr. Medlock, what's your response to this? How do you
make sure I understand it? I'm not quite clear. She's saying something about a training that she would be delivering or requesting. I'm just not clear.
Putting a proposal forth to say for once a year, a 1-year training. What is the best way to put the price in the proposal, and how negotiable is it?
So is she
name it in writing?
Could she come online? I'd like to talk to her about that. Is she?
Yeah, Michelle, I don't know if you're able to or not, but that's
it's not clear to me whether whether the proposal is for her employer, that she's proposing a training of some sort for somebody else or for herself. It's just not clear to me what exactly she's asking for.
Okay. Oh, for Michelle, and what is a good deadline for acceptance? 30, 60, or 90 days? Okay. Well, maybe we can circle back to this one. Maybe we can just kind of speak generally to that in a little bit, but I want to check in with everybody who's on here. Welcome, Banesh. Welcome. Good to have you join. Any questions that you have, you're welcome to come off mute and ask your questions or type them into the chat. How can we serve you today? Lisa, Banesh. I'll give you a sec to come off mute. Or not. Okay, I don't know that we have folks listening in, but I don't know that we have any questions right now on the table.
Well, I did type something in regards to merit and punctuality or
Oh,
reliability.
thank you.
Yeah. Is
Sorry,
merit the
I missed that.
primary factor and seeking an increase in compensation and benefits.
Okay,
So
is merit the primary factor? I don't know.
what's the question exactly, Dr. Imhotep?
If a person has been on working with an employer for numerous years,
Mhm.
should merit and reliability be the primary factor for seeking increase in compensation and benefits,
Well,
or even working a 4-day week?
Mhm. What I have found with that is well, yeah, the 4-day week is another option. But what I've found with that is if you're looking for a pay increase, one of the things, are you in a job that actually is revenue generating for the company?
I work in a nonprofit.
But are you in the service direct area where you are actually providing services that bring revenue into the company in some way?
Yes.
Yeah, well, good. So part of the business case for you getting an increase in salary is being able to demonstrate the contribution you're making in terms of increasing the revenue for the company. If you can cite certain things that have you've been a positive benefit to, and they can see the difference that you've made, and maybe you started a new program, or maybe you've done a program that really has turned out to be successful. Those are the most compelling arguments, because everybody's, particularly in the nonprofit sector, is cash starved. They don't have a lot of ways to pay people. They're hard pressed. So if you can make a business case that you're contributing to their bottom line income level, and that you've been working hard, and you're appreciated and valued employee, that's certainly a reasonable request. And typically they'll give that some serious consideration.
And if not, get to looking for something else, in other words.
Yeah. At a certain point, if that's not there, then you have to look outside. If that becomes an issue to the level where you're not that satisfied, or you need more income simply to meet your needs, or to make the next right move in your career, absolutely, then you start looking at other options.
Thank you, Dr. Imhotep.
Mhm.
Okay, so great. We now are circling back to Michelle's question, giving the training to a company. So negotiating best way to price in a proposal if you're offering a training to a company.
Oh, so you're working you're a firm that does training for organizations, and you're pitching, you're offering a training, and you want to know how to price it, is really what got it. Well, yeah, that's a very important question, right? Because you got to look at what's your time worth, and what's the value to the organization, and how you do that kind of pricing. You can do value pricing in the sense of, what do you think the contribution of this training will be to this organization, and then position the price in relationship to that. Or you can also look at your own side of, what are the costs required to deliver this training, and what do we need to make to have this be a reasonable profit margin that would make it worth delivering. So some consideration of both of those is usually important ultimately what decides it is the market value of price of trainings of the kind you're doing. So you kind of need to know what the ballpark is of what are your competition, what are they doing, what's the range of costs or price, for those kinds of trainings. And a lot of times, if you're a small organization and larger organizations can't meet a smaller price, but you might be able to deliver it for less because you have less overhead and that sort of thing. So, but you need to know the competition, you need to know the market price of what you're doing and then position it accordingly. So I'm curious to hear if you have a pretty good sense of that.
Welcome, Michelle.
Took me a minute. Thank you. Hey, so I have a very warm relationship with this company. I pitched them a proposal already, and they actually said, we want more. And so it's kind of like I can kind of maybe write my own ticket, but not completely necessarily. But they actually want something very collaborative versus me just giving my so-called proprietary program. They want me to really kind of customize it. So that's where I'm having a little confusion on how to charge for that.
And when you say collaborative, what sort of thing would that be?
They really want me to include their values and philosophies in the curriculum. So I really need to hash that out because that could be really great or that could be a nightmare. So I need to be real careful about that and what that looks like.
So there's some customization you're going to be doing for this in this particular case, and you have to look at your time for doing that. And also, do you have a feeling that this is a clear benefit to the client? This is sort of what they're asking for?
100%. They have a huge gap, and I know that they need what I'm offering, and they've already been working with me on a certain level. This would really go to a much deeper level and a long-term relationship too, I'm thinking.
Well, that sounds great. So what's your reservation, or what are your considerations that are making it unclear what to charge for this?
My reservation is once I put that number down on the proposal and send it, am I locked into because I could find out a month from now that I way undercharge or underbid. So
how would you? So have you done this kind of thing before? Are you pretty good at pricing? Oh, okay. New territory for you. Okay. Well, this is a very important skill to learn. So do you have friends who do the same kind of work that you can talk to about how they price it?
No, I really don't. So I'm kind of shooting in the dark here.
And can you give me a little bit of idea of what sort of training you're doing?
Yes, it's going to be a coaching competency, pretty much a pathway. I'm going to lay out like I would say 20-hour curriculum by the time it's all said and done. I'm proposing to do it over a 2-year time period. And that's what I'm up to. And
you are training their internal coaches to be effective. In other words,
yes.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So, and you're contracting with the company to do this, and they have and are these pretty senior level people you're going to be coaching?
At first, yes, and then they want to give it to sort of like entry level as well. Yeah. So initially.
Is this for a for-profit company or nonprofit?
It's nonprofit, but they seem to have some cash.
Okay, good. So here again, it's really important to know the market and know what other people are doing in this in terms of, because the same program that you could deliver for a small nonprofit or an individual in a corporate or in an organizational setting would be, really underpriced in that way. So that you have to really think of what is the ballpark figure for this kind of program, and really looking at who's done that kind of work. And so, but you don't right now have any partnership. We have somebody on board who's in charge of our coaching program, and she's done a lot of this work, and she could probably be a good resource for you.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. And you know who I'm talking about, GD?
I do. I'll message you, Michelle.
Thank you.
We're connected on LinkedIn, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also timeline, when it is sort of like a bigger investment, do you give them longer to get back with you, or what's the kind of time? I know that's another question for that person, but do you get a sense of like how long I should let them review that proposal?
Well, as I'm thinking also, Dr. Zwell has been doing a lot of contracting with companies around their coaching programs and developing that. And he's working at a very senior level. and has already sort of done some interventions with the senior team. So they built trust there, but they also have already seen the value of this. So when you think that you're developing that team to be effective, that's a big value for them, right? So you want to make sure that you're doing value pricing to say this is the difference that this can make in your organization. And I think it's important for you to think that through. What is it you expect to see the benefits to these people after they complete your 2-year program? What would you be promising, if you will? Do you have a sense about that?
Yes, yeah. Well, I'm really targeting the employee retention and authentic confidence so that they are effective decision makers.
Mhm.
And that's what she said she really wanted, was to help her staff be more effective in their decision making.
Yeah.
So, and then also the employee retention, so that they feel more confident in being able to be that leader, and kind of go from there.
Right. And will you be delivering this yourself personally?
Yes.
Okay. And are you going to be working with all these people?
I'm not sure how we're gonna do it. I think I was gonna maybe aim doing some video training or doing some videos, and then doing some live, but also doing some video.
Well, let's see if we can kind of get you connected with a couple of our people who have done work in exactly this area.
I'd be really grateful.
For that scope. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. This is great. In thinking about what we started off today about how much value you actually bring, and to be aware of that, so often people aren't aware of their gifts really. It's one of the reasons why we have in our graduate school, we have a whole section about how to talk about yourself and how getting the feedback from other people about who you really are, because our brain is not wired to see ourselves accurately, just like we're not wired to really know what's going to make us happy. There's all kinds of research about that. As individuals, we're pretty clueless about what actually makes us happy. What we think doesn't. And so having people supporting you, Michelle, and everybody in getting to know what your gifts, your skills are, such that, when you do deliver something very valuable, you don't walk away resenting it afterwards, saying, oh, shoot, I should have done this much more. I've certainly had that. So, thank you, Jane. So actually, yeah, we just dropped in a link to our graduate university. There is certainly something to check out. And, Michelle, I'll probably be able to connect you with some people, but it might also be helpful for you to take a look at an evening workshop we have coming up about powerful communication. Just in this process, looking at where your gaps might be in asking for what you want, that kind of thing, so you can be more aware of that. And maybe even tomorrow's workshop, transformational leadership. That might be incredibly useful for you. Our CEO, Dr. Bob Wright, is hosting that one. It's kind of a rarity. He does this about once a year. So if that's available to you, check it out. Great. Cool. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Medlock.
I know. I just was just acknowledging that was a good idea for her to do. So glad to see that. And
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So we've got a question coming in from Susan. Quick reminder to everybody, you're welcome to jump in live on this Zoom link. That's the most efficient way to work with Dr. Medlock and me. But if you're unable to, you can type your questions into the comments or chat section. So we've got a couple questions coming in here. A competitor has reached out to me. I have not connected with them yet. I am assuming it is about a job. Historically, I look at everything that could be wrong with the opportunity before I even know anything about the opportunity. Well, I mean, that's just our negativity bias. I think it's something that every human being does, where I tend to either go to denial or fantasy or look at what the problems might be and be a skeptic. And so I don't know that I think it's a question of how to use scanning for threats, scanning for what could be wrong, how to use that effectively, rather than having it be a self-fulfilling prophecy where you're scanning for the problems and then kind of create those problems when maybe they didn't really need to be manifest. But I don't know. Are you able to come into the meeting and share more about that?
I'm okay talking as long as you don't use my last name, because if this is on
Awesome.
LinkedIn, I don't want to
Well-
take that chance. So I'm not going
Well,
to come off
yes.
camera either.
Perfect.
So, you know, historically, so this is a competitor who it could be potentially a really great opportunity for me.
Mhm.
And I'm just trying to reorient from, you know, hearing things about them having some challenges as a company. And, you know, I've gone in and I've looked at their LinkedIn. They've hired a whole bunch of new people recently, and they don't have great backgrounds in the business or the industry. And so why do I automatically go to this negativity about it? Like, it's like why do they even want to talk to me? And almost like, I don't know. So I just wanted to have a conversation to
Thank you.
work on
Well,
reorienting myself towards the positive.
This is great. Thank you.
So it sounds like you've got a lot of data that there's real problems that this group has. Now, you might be the person who can help resolve those for them. The fact that there are
Right.
issues might be an opportunity for how a contribution you can make. If you have a clear sense about those kinds of things being something you could make a difference in, and you otherwise feel good about the company. On the other hand, if you've got a whole litany of lists of things that you think this company is not a good idea, certainly question whether it would be of any point in pursuing it. So, but what I'm also hearing is that you're saying that you don't trust your negativity bias, that it might be a way that you actually prevent yourself from exploring new opportunities. So,
Yes, I think it does. I think it prevents me from effectively exploring
good.
opportunities.
I would invite you to explore it, to look at, understand what you see to be do the research, be able to talk intelligently about some of the challenges that they're having, ways that you might be able to contribute, and just play with it and try it on and see what they might be about and what questions you have to want to explore with them, and what the upside might be for you in terms of, obviously there's a part of you that's considering it, or we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right. I
Yep.
think, you know, I also want to be able to try to erase the fear that they're putting me in the same category as people that are, you know, pretty much not too far out of school with no industry background. And
Well-
so it's this fear of being, you know, I'm assuming that I'm not being perceived as good enough.
So I'm curious, on what basis are you making those assumptions?
I'm making up stories in my head.
With
I'm
no data.
making it up, and I'm trying to guess. I guess my purpose for me personally and speaking up about it is to name it, to tame it.
Oh,
Because
cool.
Good for you.
I'm just, you know, I'm finding myself doing this morning,
Good,
and it's like, why?
good for
Because
you.
I've got
Yes.
2 other opportunities for next week that I've been doing the same things
So
on.
we have a philosophy where we work. We talk about internal dialogues that we have with ourselves, and that the idea that there are no really bad parts, that we all have these thoughts that go on that are actually functional and have been designed to protect us. So I like that you're just really naming it and identifying it. And obviously this protects you in some way. Having these negative thoughts may protect you from having to face change or things that you might find that would be upsetting, or there's a self-protective quality to this sort of negative thinking that you can say, oh, thank you. It's probably been very helpful in many situations, but right now it's kind of limiting what I really want. So thank you for sharing, and let me explore some other ways of thinking about this. So rather than trying to squash it, and sort of say, I wish that voice wasn't there and I wish I could just be positive. Understand that that voice has been there for a reason in your life, and to be able to acknowledge that, and then explore what you'd like to do differently with this from a place of self-compassion rather than self-criticism. And really catch yourself. If you're caught in the self-criticism or looking negatively at yourself, that's like toxic. That's the thing to catch and say, wait a minute, whoa. But there again, I said it was toxic, but there again also, that also is some sort of strategy to protect yourself in some way. Maybe from, if you criticize yourself, then it's not going to hurt if somebody else rejects you. We all have these sort of ways of thinking that we've used that we have outgrown, but our automatic nervous system has got these in our database that we pull out when we see a threat. So I love that you're looking at that and seeing your patterns and are open to doing it differently. And congratulations for your awareness. And
Thanks.
the key is to not let it stop you from exploring. It sounds like exploring some of these other options is really important for you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for letting me chat about it.
Good. Well, enjoy.
This is awesome.
How it goes. Yeah.
Thank you, because this is, I imagine a lot of people relate. So really appreciate that. I'm going to share this as I'm catching the conservative environment I brought up, where when I would come in with new ideas, new things, that would be thwarted to me as like a little boy. And how to this day, when I'm adventuring into some new project, doing something, because I love creating, I love doing stuff, I'm monitoring that fear that, oh no, somebody's going to take this away from me. I'm going to do something and then they're going to say, nope, you can't do that. Like I remember playing with Star Wars, but Star Wars were too secular for me as from the community I came up in. And so it was like, oh, now I have to like hide my Star Wars figures so that they don't get taken away from me. And so that early programming shows up for the rest of our lives. So I love that you're aware of it, that you're naming it to tame it, and wishing you the best in your conversation tomorrow to actually be aware of it and even have it give you insights into your communications with the company and to really serve them. And I want to name this too. The thing is, even if this doesn't turn into an opportunity for you, if you go in there and you use your skepticism and your feelings and you're alert to things, but you're doing it so that you're really serving them and yourself, getting clarity, then you're just going to serve them from the conversation, and they will value you as a person, as a valuable resource to them.
George Donald, I really like that. And it just,
Yeah.
as you said that, what it made me think of, you could say, I've really been curious about your company for some time, but there's some concerns I've had that I'd like to talk to you about. Are you open to a conversation about that? And then suddenly it's no longer, quote, you being a dog and pony show having to do it. And now it becomes a conversation of two professionals really talking about how to help this company do something different. And
Yeah.
that's something that person you're talking with is going to really remember, and you're going to be high on their radar, guaranteed.
Yeah, that's really good advice, because they're very much in a position that might feel sometimes like my own company is in. And
Mhm.
it's, what are they doing to combat some of the challenges that I've heard from my customers about them.
Perfect.
So, great, thank you.
Oh, I'm excited to hear about that. You tell us, let us know how it goes. Okay.
Yep.
I will, thank you.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thank you. So this is Career Lab Wednesday. Every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. Central. We are here to serve you, answer career-related questions. No question is too small, too big. Sometimes we'll grapple with the question with you over a couple weeks. That's fine. But we're here to support you in your development, using your career, your job as a pathway for you to reach your potential. I want to give an update. Dr. Medlock, this will be new info for you as well, but we've been talking about this, transitioning a portion of this to private meeting where this isn't being streamed on LinkedIn Live. We're building that out. We're in the process of developing an app that will be available, that will have a lot of the concepts and things that we talk about here. One of the features will be that will give you access to those private recordings. This is still months out and we're in development stages here, but wanting you to know that if there is a time when you want to share something, and you're concerned about it, just let us know. Let us know, and we can stop streaming. We'll sort that out. So we want you to know that we're sensitive to what we're doing here, and greatly appreciate everybody who shares openly and has provided that value for a lot of people who are watching this streaming. So I just want to name that and give you all a shout out. Everybody who's been doing that with us for the past few months.
Right. Thank you.
So all that said, we've got some questions coming in. I'll just refer to you as B. How to deal with office assumption when gauging work, and how to better compensation after working with the company after the probation period. Are you able to come off mute and share more about that with us? I want to name too, I know that we have a meeting set up later this week, but take advantage of us now while you can.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Oh, okay. So I just recently graduated, and I have been working in this industry where I'm working for the past 3 years. And I have been this is my second job that I was working at. And when I am at the office, I'm gauging at work. Even I have experience in what I do, but then I tend to gauge the work. But during that moment of gauging my work, it takes a lot of time. And during that time, a lot of assumptions are created, whether this work can be done, whether this work can't be done, but how do I control them, that what I'm gauging is right and it will take some time, but it will be done. How to control others' assumptions, that it's not what you think, is what my question is.
Okay, so you're an engineer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you talking about that you have a certain work culture in your organization, and how long are you allotted to doing certain kinds of projects? Is that the sort of thing we're talking about here?
Well, according to my immediate boss, everything has to be done by end of day.
By end of day, okay.
Yeah, end of day or end of business.
Mhm.
But according to me, with my experience and my gauging, I might say it might take the next day. I can finish it by next day.
Yeah.
And I need to work it out, because since I'm an engineer, I have to work a lot with setups and setting up the software or the hardware, whatever is required. And it takes a lot of time. Although I am trying to tell him that, yes, it will be done end of day, but it usually extends.
Well, it sounds to me like you're very thorough, more analytic, and that you take the time to really get it right, as opposed to rushing through it to get it done in a way that might not be as same quality. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, quality and detail to work is important, which tends to burn me out, but I keep that always in mind.
You say it tends to burn you out?
Yeah, when you are keeping that level of detailing in your work, in your setups, in your reports, you tend to match every single detail, every time, seconds, minutes, hours that you account for.
Well, this is a great question you're asking, because it really raises a lot of other questions that I think are really important.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I relate to this too. We talk about time compression. Is it possible to actually, if you take a lot of time and you're used to taking a lot of time to get something set up, can you learn to actually compress your time and get things done more efficiently? That may or may not be the case here, but that's something to think about. there's also the concept that the same fellow I was talking about, Cal Newport, talks about deep work. Sometimes people need to have time to really deeply engage in a project, to give it the time so that you can come up with a good creative solution. So it may be that you can talk to your boss about, what the expectation is of what the quality of the work's going to be. And there may be different levels you can approach it based on you guys having the same standards in mind. So if you have a certain picture of a kind of excellence and the time it takes, and he's saying, I just need X, and you're talking about X plus Y plus Z. He says, I don't need Y plus Z. I just need X, and I need it by the end of the day. Then you're probably going to need to learn how to compress your time and just get it done and let go of some of the perfectionism or some of the high quality focus that you give. And that can be difficult if you're a kind of guy who really likes to do things in a very precise way. But on the other hand, if you can make your case that you create more value by getting it right and doing it in depth, and that you've got some evidence of that from stuff you've already done, that's a fair negotiation. So I'd like to hear your thoughts about that and that choice.
I think, yeah, but during the time I gauge, it creates, I tend to go into like silence, like understanding what the structure is of the work or how the previous work, people who have been before me have done the work. I have to understand that, then start to make my own work. And more times than not, it has created misunderstandings with my boss where he's like, you're an expert, you should be able to finish this off within the day. And I'm like, no. If you ask me on a scale of 0 to 10 about a scale, it would be, I'll always lowball myself, because I know even if on the best day I can put in like 5 or 6 out of 10, but I will always tell my boss, let's put it at 4 and let's see where it goes. So it's always misunderstanding with my boss, because he's trying to push somewhere, but I'm saying, let's not do that and gauge what's required.
So
here's the bind on that is, ultimately, if your boss has a certain expectation and he's not moving from that, if you guys have different expectations of what's going to be required, it's not going to be a satisfying relationship. And at the end of the day, he's going to win. In other words, if he's saying I need it by this time and that's the way I want it running, it'll quote show up as a performance issue for you. That's just being the nature of things the way they are. So I think there's opportunity here to look at what would it take for you to actually satisfy him? What would you need to do differently in order to satisfy him or her? I'm not sure if it's a woman or man.
Well, to answer you, like, if my boss has won, he has already won. I am no longer doing that job. I'm looking for new jobs now, because since I was not able to satisfy, I'm asking this question so that whatever next opportunity that I get, I'm at least able to not repeat the same mistake or the same thing that I did in this company.
So you couldn't figure out a way to actually make him happy or meet his expectations. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And would you say that that was a skill gap for you, or was it, I'm not sure what the issue is there.
Time is an issue where the expectation to finish a thing and the expectation to finish a thing by my time is totally different. Like you said, time compression, it works differently for him and it works differently for me. Within that time, it creates a lot of misunderstanding, whether it can be performed or it can't be performed.
And in all this time, how long have you been working with this guy?
So this company that I worked for was 10 months.
10 months. So in 10 months, you guys haven't been able to kind of come to terms with this.
Yeah, that's why I had to leave the job.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Sounds like you've given it whatever shot you can. George Donald, do you have some thoughts about this one?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm glad we'll be talking more later, because there's one of the things you're going to want to get into sooner than later is personalities, personality styles, and how to communicate. I think it's safe to say you're probably a pretty strong analyzer, and learning how to communicate to regulators and energizers. It's kind of like learning a different language, but once you do it, it can be extremely effective. There's a lot that I would recommend that you do in this transition process, to help you develop your communication skills, to help you develop setting clear expectations, and even the ability to go back and forth with a boss, a client, whoever, to really be clear about where you're at in that relationship, and to not have it end up being like all the pressure's on you. Like it's like, sink or swim. Because that kind of sink or swim stuff, it'll tend to follow you around to any company that you go to. It's really a skill to develop. So it's not a quick answer, but there's certainly a lot that you can develop here. And I know we're going to be communicating some more on this, but I would highly recommend if you can, do the transformational leadership event tomorrow with Dr. Bob Wright, and then the powerful communication one in a couple weeks on August 11th. That's gonna kind of set the stage for you, and give you a lot of information, a lot of different things to check out in your conversations, in your relationships, to become more of a partner with people in the process of working. So, and I imagine you're incredibly frustrated right now after 10 months of a problem that is not resolved. And I think this will begin scratching that itch for you.
I mean, yeah, so this is my second job, and the first job that I had, the management was a bit different from this present job. However, I settled for this job on the second job because it was more aligned to what I wanted to do, the vertical that I wanted to be in terms of the industry. That is why I accepted the job, although people have asked that, why did you do the job and things were not getting in sync? I said it's because it was the vertical that I always wanted to be in.
Well, you're starting out your career. This is how you learn. So you're going to find out, what are the different styles of different managers, what are the kinds of work I like to do. So it's going to be, a number of different starts perhaps before you find the really right rhythm that you're looking for. But I think you're on the path to do that. And it sounds like you're approaching it consciously, and that you're reaching out and talking about it here today, I think is a good sign of something.
Great questions.
Yeah. So thank you. Appreciate that.
So we are wrapping up here. Dan, good to see you join. We've got a few minutes yet. If there's something that we can serve you with, I'd love to hear from you. It's been a minute. I know that we connected some time ago, but any updates and any way we can support you?
Hey, good to see you again, George. No, I'm pretty good right now. I got caught up with an unexpected client call, so I apologize for joining late. So I caught I don't know, the last couple of minutes listening to Banesh. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I mean, that's part of your growing pains, is just going to be based on exposure and different experiences. When I left one company, and again, solid company, I was frustrated with management and customers and service and so forth, and said, I'm leaving this, and it's going to be better at the next company. And very similar situation to the next company, same script, different players. So know that some things just you have to learn how to deal with, and they come with the territory. But yeah, right now I'm in a good place. I've done speaking and training and been on my own essentially over 20 years, and I'm in a state of flow. So I feel blessed and appreciative.
Right.
Oh, fantastic. That's great to hear.
Good to have you here.
Well, as we're wrapping up, reminder to everybody, we welcome all questions. Love it when you can jump in on the Zoom and we get to work with you one-to-one. If not, always able to ask questions through the comment section in LinkedIn. And actually that reminds me, let me do a quick scan here. I was listening to Banesh there, so wasn't scanning the chats here. Am I missing anything? Any questions? Jennifer, you're welcome. Tiffany's relating about not meeting expectations. Yep, being able to communicate what's realistic as well as push. I'm able to do so many more things than I ever thought I was able to do. There's some projects I've worked on that I was like, oh shit, that's way easier than I was expecting. I didn't know I could do it that fast. Then there's other things that I never succeeded at. I'm thinking of one very painful memory about a project I took on, and basically the best thing I did for that was pass it off to somebody younger who understood technology way better than I did and was able to take the thing to the next level that needed to get taken to. But anyway, there's thanks, Jennifer, appreciate it. To be able to look at what are the things that I can develop, what are the things that I'm not going to develop, and where are skill gaps that I have no intention of improving, and being able to communicate that to somebody, because that really then can help your boss or manager assess you and put you with who you need to would work really well with. And you know, managers, everybody's got a lot on their plate, so that's just a wonderful thing. So that actually circles us all the way back to the start of this conversation today around negotiating and knowing your worth and being able to say, here's my gifts. And again, this is a skill. This takes intention and feedback from others to really learn what your gifts are, what your skills are, how you can contribute. And then even to say, and these are the things I'm not so good at. That is incredibly helpful. And as far as I know, 99.5% of the world has way more grace and goodwill towards me than I ever expected. So I think that's kind of a lovely thing to share. Any last thoughts, Dr. Medlock? Anything you want to share as we're wrapping up here?
Oh, I think it's been a good discussion and some really good points have been made today. So it's a lot of people in process here exploring new territories. So we'll see where they go. Look forward to hearing more.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dan. We can stay in touch. We'll see you next week. If you are joining on LinkedIn Live and catching this late, know that you can always review the beginning parts, or if you want to refer back to anything that is available, you can message me on LinkedIn. Jane Coletto helps manage my LinkedIn, so we'll make sure to get you the information you're looking for. And again, look forward to seeing some of you and hopefully all of you at the workshops that we talked about. These are super powerful. With Dr. Bob Wright and Dr. Judith Wright. So until then, take care. See you next week. Let us know how we can help you, and we'll continue this journey together.
Thank you.
A good one. Take
You
care.
bet.
Bye now.
Thanks, everyone.